the middle for feeding purposes. The doors to the milk house are always closed to keep it warm in there. So I go in there and start my normal feeding routine, still not noticing anything strange. Then I open the door on the other side of the milk house to feed the far pens, and that's when I noticed the older, almost weaned calves on the right pen were very skittish. I ignored it at first and went about what I was doing, and then I saw him. A man, huddled in the corner of the pen, just sitting there in all black and bundled up because it was cold as hell out there that night. But he just sat there, looking at me, smiling. In between those far two pens is a double door that again isn't locked, making it easy for someone to get in. Anyways, I was holding a 5-litre bucket filled with milk and I dropped it, spilling it all over the ground, and I've never booked it so fast out of there. I told my coworker what happened and we hid out in the back room for a little bit with our barn dog. We eventually got the courage to go back and check it out, but the man was gone and the double doors were wide open. Thinking back, we should have called the cops on him for trespassing, but he never threatened us or the cows, and nothing went missing. I don't know if he was a homeless man looking for shelter in the cold or what, but my barn is a tad far out of town for that. And what scares me the most is that I walked in there more than twice that day and still didn't even notice him, so I have no idea how long he had been watching me. I've worked 2 night shifts since then, and I work another one tonight. Since then, I've been sure to scan the barn and lock the doors while I'm feeding. A note to everyone, not just farmers, just lock your doors. Always lock your doors. Update. So here's a little update on the guy that was in my barn a bit ago. I did see him again, but I'll get to that. Plus, some of my co-workers have noticed some weird things. I worked 2 night shifts again this past weekend, and there are certain doors in the barn that I can't lock even if I want to, so I just have to be extra cautious about it. One of those nights, I got there early in hope of maybe getting off before midnight. That being said, I was the only one there for a little bit. Stupid, I know, but I was tired and thought it'd be nice to have a head start. I went out to the big barn to get the first pen of milking cows. I just remember feeling very uneasy. It might have just been me being paranoid given the previous situation. Well, that night, I thought I saw someone lurking in the pasture in which we had the heifers in earlier. I couldn't see because it was dark, but I swear I saw that old familiar smile with the little light that I had coming from the silos. But I figured I was hallucinating, being a little skittish, so I brushed it off and went in the barn. I almost had the whole first pen to the parlor when my co-worker showed up. We continued the night as usual, and then I had to go start the pasteurizer. Of course, I didn't want to, but I had to. I went in there and the calves seemed fine. Everything seemed perfect. I looked around. Not hard enough, you'll come to find out soon. And everything was good. I went back to milk the second pen. After the pen, I went to feed the calves while my co-worker went to get the third pen like usual. Like I said, everything seemed fine and I was probably in there for about 20 minutes, feeding the hutch calves bottles, which typically takes longer, and we had 6, so it took a little bit. Then I went to the far pens where I saw the man the last time, and everything was okay. I went to feed the middle pens, and that's when something didn't seem right. One of the calves was laying down and refused to get up to eat, so I hopped the fence to help it up. Just a note, I set the pail of milk on the ground in between the 2 middle pens. I turned around once I got the calf up, and there he was. This time, he was standing and still smiling. I still couldn't really see his face because it was covered, but he was still wearing the same clothes, which was weird because it was 60-something degrees out here that night. He wasn't overly tall or big, he just had a really creepy appearance and smile. He didn't say anything, he just smiled. I have a knife on me for work purposes, so I pulled out that just to have it, and then I jumped the fence again and ran back to the parlor just as I did the last time. I was working with the same girl, and me and her literally locked ourselves in the break room again and called our boss. He got there and we went to the calf barn again, and everything was just as I left it, except one thing. The milk pail that had previously been filled to a mark on it was now empty, and the milk was all over the ground around it, but the pail was placed back upright. My boss didn't know what to tell us, but he stayed at the barn for the rest of the shift. My other co-workers started reporting things going missing, cows being moved, lights turning on and off, doors being left open, and milkers being turned off. One of my co-workers even said that the man was sitting in one of the empty calf hutches, and they didn't realize it wasn't a calf until they went to feed it, and he was just smiling at them. The cops had been notified, and we now have a cop parked by the barn every other night, and one that stays in the area at all times. I don't know where he was when I first checked the barn I started feeding, because he wasn't in that pen. I checked. He definitely has some sort of hiding spot that I didn't see, or he was moving around the milk house as I walked through it or something. But this guy really creeps me out, and lately I've been turning down night shifts. I'll keep you guys updated on how the cop thing works out and if I ever see him again. This whole thing just really freaks me out because I love my job and the people that I work with, but I hate being afraid to go to work. This happened to me a couple of years ago now, and it just occurred to me to post it here when I rediscovered this sub. Unfortunately, I've had many run-ins with predatory men in my life, but this particular experience really sticks out to me because it felt like such a close call. I was at my good friend's house with my now ex-boyfriend. We were drinking and smoking the devil's lettuce, watching a movie with a few mutuals. As these things are sometimes wont to do, a few other friends showed up, and it went from a Mad Max movie marathon to a lurk in the kitchen and tell weird stories gathering, which was totally fine by all of us. There were a couple of other people that I didn't recognize, but I trusted my friend, whose home it was, to be discerning. About this time, exhaustion and too much of everything began to hit me, so my friend took me upstairs to her bedroom and tucked me into her bed so I could get some rest. I immediately fell asleep and was sleeping quite soundly, until something made me jerk awake suddenly. A stranger was standing over me with a finger to his lips. He had pulled the comforter off of me and my skirt was in his hand. He had been pulling it up over my hips. My senses immediately went on alarm and I screamed, "What are you doing?" He dropped my skirt and said,
I was just trying to wake you up.
I sat up and was trying to get away from him and yelled, "Where's Brad?" Who's my ex? I still have no idea why that was a pressing question, but okay, fight or flight brain. When the stranger said,
He sent me to come get you.
It finally snapped in my sleep-addled brain that this was all wrong, and I shoved past him and ran downstairs screaming. Immediately my boyfriend and friend and everyone else at the party were surrounding me and asking me what was wrong. I hastily and shakily explained, and they ushered me into the living room while the boys went to take care of the stranger. Apparently, he had locked himself in the bathroom and it took them an hour to get him out, and as soon as he opened the door, he ran as fast as he could down the stairs and left without even getting his shoes. It was one of those "we thought you knew him" situations. He had tagged along with some people who had come over from the bar, who were all under the assumption that their other friend knew the guy. The look in his eyes when I woke up still sends chills down my spine when I think about it. He had obviously seen that I was faded and decided to see what he could get away with.